Welcome to Life with Beth and Court,
where we teach you how to live authentically and build your best life,
one step at a time.
Welcome back to another episode of Life with Beth and Court. I'm Beth.
I'm Court.
And today we have a very special friend with us, Breana Demaray.
Oh, that was impressive. You pronounced it perfectly.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Well, my last name is Barbalia, so...
Oh, you get it.
I'm pretty used to people mispronouncing or just giving up on my last name, to be honest. When I was a kid in sports, they would try to announce for the trophies, and they'd be like, Beth, Beth, number 2? Present.
Yep. I'm becoming more brave in correcting people on how to pronounce my name.
There you go. All right. So today, Court, what are we mic checking with?
We're not mic checking.
Come again?
So Breana actually gave me this awesome list of songs when we were talking this morning. And instead of me trying to memorize them or playing a short little snippet quickly, I listened to all of the songs this morning and I had chills, I had goosebumps, I had tears, I had the lump in my throat. So I really just feel like this is a list of songs that need to be felt and experienced. So we're going to link them in the show notes instead of me trying to sing it.
Interesting. And just last episode, we said we start every episode with a mic check. Just kidding.
We also do whatever we want. So that's happening. Yeah.
We're like Alicia Keys. Yeah. All right. So today's episode, the reason that we have Breana here with us is because obviously the landscape of what's happening in our country and around the world is very intense. And there's a lot of learning. There's a lot of conversations happening. There are a lot of protests, riots, rallies. I know you don't like that term, but there are a lot of everything happening right now surrounding social injustice, especially when it comes to the Black community and people of color. And we are in this learning process right now. And we just want to be super vulnerable and put it out there that we want our listeners to be able to learn right alongside with us. And, we were talking before this, and we do have some very strong feelings on certain topics, but we don't want people to feel alienated when they're trying to learn. And as long as they have the heart to learn, even if, I think there's this sentiment that I'm afraid to step out as an ally because I'm afraid to get it wrong.
Yeah. Right.
And we're trying to help people step out as allies while acknowledging we will get it wrong. And that feels really uncomfortable. Right. And especially, I know for both of us, that's pretty tough, because people look to us to hear what we have to say on different topics, especially hard topics.
Yeah.
And so it's really tough for us to say we're going to get this wrong, and we fully know we are, and we appreciate you being willing to be here with us and to talk about it with us and to help educate us so that we can do better when we know better.
I kind of want to go alongside that as someone who is learning also. I don't have all the answers. I'm not the expert. I'm not an expert at all. Disclaimer, for those of you who are only hearing my voice and don't know what I look like, I don't look like Beth or Court. I'm Black, which is a plot twist for you.
I say that all the time when we record. So. Plot twist.
Yeah, like, oh, didn't see that coming. But yeah, just as a Black woman who lives in a community where the majority of who I identify as a friend, as a family member, they don't look like me. That is my truth. That is part of my story. I'm in a posture and a position of learning as well, and I'm honored to be on this episode with you guys. I wouldn't say yes to just anyone, which I did share with you guys before we started, but it definitely is a hugely vulnerable place to be in, to be able to say I'm afraid to get it wrong, but I want to still be a part of it, Yeah. And I'm there with you because as someone who woke up one morning to being a part of something really big in the community, I was not ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of put in that place and put in that spotlight, and sometimes that comes with its own pressures.
For sure, yeah.
Well, so we appreciate you being here today, and we're just going to, kind of let people listen in on a conversation that we'll have, and we'll just go through some questions and kind of get your perspective and go from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Court, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sounds good. So Breana, the reason we reached out to you is because you and I had actually started having conversations online regarding what happened to George Floyd. And so you and I started having this really transparent, vulnerable dialogue back and forth, because from my perspective, this is the situation that kind of put everything into the spotlight of what's been happening. I remember the morning that Bethann, you told me what had happened. I will completely own the first words out of my mouth were, how is this still happening? And so I was kind of in this space of denial. And then you and I started having conversation, and I came to you because I felt safe, because I knew you. And it is really scary to be like, well, I want to be a part of this movement. I want to support it. I want to be educated. I want to advocate, but I don't know what to say. And I don't know, like I have good intentions, but what's the impact, right? So what does that look like? So you and I started having those conversations after George Floyd's murder. And just tell us a little bit about what was that experience like for you when you heard of that situation happening? And my question to you, which we'll talk about the language in a little bit, was, why do you think this time is different?
Yes. Okay, so just to kind of share a little bit of all the things that I was feeling, when that question was first put out there of how I'm feeling during this, my response was just all the emotions.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to really name them yet. Everywhere from angry to confused to afraid to sad. Fear was really strong in there. And I struggled with that, feeling that that was justified. Again, as someone who is very much the minority in my community, I did not understand personally how I could feel all those ways so deeply when that was not 100% my experience of it being a daily impactful thing that was a part of my life. I don't know anyone personally who has died at the hands of violence in that way. I don't. Do I, just like everyone else, have that media being poured into my brain and into my heart on a regular basis? Definitely. At the same time, it was not personal for me. But what is personal for me is what I've experienced as a Black woman here in this community, and how that has shaped my ability to speak up, to speak my truth. And yeah, that's what I'm continuing to do.
You're killing it. I love it.
It's scary, but it's so worth it. And the whole why of why I continue to speak up and to learn how to do that in a way that's not just about me, but about others who I care about. It's hard, but it's necessary. And that's something that I've consistently been willing to do, is do the hard but necessary things.
And as Life with Beth and Court, that's what we frequently advocate, is standing in your truth, doing the right thing, even when it's hard, but it is scary, especially when violence starts to be a factor as well.
Yes.
So we respect you and we appreciate you standing in your truth, because we think there needs to be more of that.
Hey, thanks for being allies.
You're welcome.
Stepping into that.
So this next question, I want you to call out, because we were having a pre-conversation about the questions.
Yes.
And my next question was, why do you think this time is different? Meaning, why do you think what happened to George Floyd is creating this uptick in social and the riots and the rallies? And so you actually very kindly and compassionately said, I want to call out that language a little bit because of it's not really proper. So can you share that?
Right. So just impact versus intent. We have been talking a lot about that. You, me, really all my relationships lately. The phrase of this time or this one, when we're referring to protests, to movements, to deaths, it diminishes and devalues the work that people who have come before us, our ancestors, whether they're Black, white, brown, purple, it doesn't matter. Like, there are people who've come before us who have done some hard, intentional work. So I think it's important to not just look at this whole mess, but beautiful mess at the same time, as of this time, because there is history that I don't know.
Right.
There's history that none of us will know, and that is both heartbreaking and both encouraging, because it's like this way has been paved for a long time. You know, there's many stories, many history events that we've all been taught in school. Sure, some of them might not be as accurate as they should be. I'm not going to go off on that, though.
You have full permission to. I'm just going to put it out there.
You know what? That is very kind. At the same time, I want to be realistic in that I'm still learning what is true, what is realistic and factual, so to speak. But that work has been tirelessly, intentionally sought after for a long time. And I want to make sure that like what we continue to do, like in our work and in our ways that we show up for one another, for social justice and equity gives honor to that, because as I wear a shirt, which our listeners can't see, my shirt today says Black Girl Magic. That is a testament to my pride, knowing that I come from amazing, amazing people.
I love that. And it's just so powerful that you were able to reframe that for us, because once we had that conversation, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. And I never would have thought of that just writing out these questions. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and on that same topic, I kind of want to get into a little bit of, because again, in our conversation prior to recording the podcast, we kind of started talking about micro behaviors or micro thought patterns, or language that we don't necessarily understand why it's offensive or why it's hurtful. So can we talk a little bit about that? Like, what are some micro behaviors, or, as you brought up a term that you said is, I believe it's silent racism?
Quiet racism.
Quiet
yes,
racism.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So it is directly connected to the phrase white silence is violence. And quiet racism in my community has been not talking about it, not believing that this is happening in our community, minimizing, denial. Yes, Courtney used a great word, denial. When we were talking earlier, I was like, oh my goodness, there it is. It's right there.
There it is.
That is the word, the not wanting to talk about it, the not wanting to acknowledge it, that it's happening here in our community where we don't see color. Like, the number of times I've heard that is, we don't see color, or I don't think of you as black, or sometimes I forget that you're even black. Like, these are phrases that I hear from people who I love, from people who I call my friends and family, and I'm like, whew, good, close one. I was worried there that that's 100% sarcasm. Like, when I am reminded.
Brianna's very
good.
sarcastic,
Yes,
which
I
we
am.
love.
Yes.
Like,
So.
we talked about this earlier before we started recording. Like, for me, that's how I was raised. I was raised that you don't see color and everyone is the same. So I had to learn about the all lives matter versus the Black lives matter, because truly in my soul, ingrained in me, was all lives matter. And it was challenging for me because I was looking to educate myself. And the first 3 examples I saw of it were snarky posts on Facebook. And I was like, okay, well, that doesn't really give the analogy. But then I saw the house on fire one. And that really, oh, okay, I get it. So my house is not on fire right now.
Right.
Like, that's what helped me understand.
So tell us what that example was.
Basically, it was someone's house was on fire and the firefighter came to put out the fire. And then someone next door, the neighbor, said, my house is important, right?
Yeah,
and then,
my house is important too.
Yeah, my house is important too. And the firefighter looked at her and said, well, is your house on fire? Like, this is the one we're saving. This is the fire we're putting out right now. So that was really helpful.
Well, and to juxtapose the way that you grew up saying, Brianna, to your point,
That's a great word.
What, juxtapose?
I can't say it. I'm not going to lie.
Thanks.
I wish I could, but I'm not going to try.
Sometimes it just comes out. I think it was when I was studying to be spelling bee champ when I was in 2nd grade.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
Well, if you want to
It
win
is for
2nd grade
her.
spelling bee, it sure is. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
so to juxtapose that, I'll use it again.
No.
I never wanted to me, the words everyone's the same, or I don't see color, or any phrase in that kind of sentiment, to me felt disrespectful, because I do want to acknowledge your history and your culture. And I know that if someone came to me and said, I'm just the same as you, I'd be like, no, you're not. I don't care what color their skin is. If someone said, I'm just like you, I'd be like, no, I'm unique and I am different than you. And rather than trying to make me vanilla and like blend in, I'd rather you acknowledge that I am different, but I am good.
Good and worthy, I think, are synonymous. Is that? Yeah. Synonymous.
Yeah, look at you with
I'm
those
just-
second
I'm
grade
trying,
spelling
I'm
bee
trying,
words.
I was feeling inspired, so thank you. Worthy. Like, that's a big concept. And I think to kind of go along with both of how you were raised and also approached this whole seeing color, seeing the differences, acknowledging that we are or are not the same. When I'm saying like we, I mean like people in general, regardless of their shade. That just speaks to the fact that society has done us a disservice. Us as in human beings on this earth.
Yeah.
We have not gotten it right. We will never fully get it right. I don't think that there is a day when it's going to be like, oh, no one on this earth is, racist, or, it's all
But
good.
boy,
Like,
would that be lovely.
yeah, it's safe to be, black, white, whatever, everywhere in the world. I don't believe that I will see that be a reality in my lifetime.
Right.
Do I hope it'll happen eventually? Yes.
Yeah.
At the same time, you sharing that, you grew up not seeing color. And honestly, I wanted that. Like when I was growing up, I didn't want people to see my color.
Interesting.
I still struggle with wanting to be seen. And the one thing that does make me very visible is my color.
Yeah.
So with that, like, yes, Beth, I'm so glad that you want to celebrate it. Like that's huge for me. I don't have all the words to describe how huge that is for me because I want to be in that place too. Like I want to be able to celebrate. I want to be proud of my skin.
Yeah.
Of all the features that make me me, but all the features that also make me a black woman.
Right.
So I'm not wrapped up in 100% the color of my skin, but it is very much a part of my identity. And I am in a place now in my life where I'm like, I'm done trying to not allow that.
Right.
Like,
It's powerful.
yeah.
Powerful.
Well, I don't get it right every time. I really don't. No.
Especially we talk a lot about living authentically, living unapologetically, really leaning into what it is that makes you unique and what it is that you desire for your life, going after your dreams. Our tagline is building your best life. We talk about that a lot. And to point out our ignorance, we never brought race into it ever.
Let's go back to, so Breana, you were talking about how you felt a little nervous, like being on the podcast, right? And I said, you shouldn't be. You're very well spoken. And you just gave me that look and I was like, uh-oh.
So
and
that does...
tell us why that's offensive.
Okay, so first, I kind of want to touch on why I was nervous. There's a lot of reasons why someone on a podcast might be nervous. My main reason was connected to the fact that it would be my voice and what I sound like, and that there wouldn't be an immediate connection to the fact that I am a black woman. That there would be that confusion that I've lived with my entire life as a 60-year-old woman. I'm kidding, I'm not 60, but sometimes I feel 60, but...
It's that 30.
Yeah,
it gets to you real fast.
That 30.
But it's, again, stepping into that reality that I can't live that way anymore, of being ashamed, of wanting to hide that reality that I am a black woman. So I was worried, that my voice would be out there. Yes, you have heard that I spoke up at the Saturday protest, which I still am having a hard time believing I did that. But even now, like after it's been a week now, I'm like, my voice is out there.
It can be scary.
It can be.
Because then it lives forever.
Yeah, it lives forever.
Not to make that anxiety any worse.
It's fine. Yeah, I feel
You're not
great.
helping.
Yeah,
You're
it's all good. Yeah, it's forever. Yeah. But I just want to reiterate, I am very honored to be on this episode.
Yeah.
It kept me up at night.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Oh, also a little plug there. While I am on this episode on my own, I am in many ways representing an amazing group of individuals who now collectively are a council, and they are the Northern Michigan Anti-Racism Task Force. Things are huge in the community right now, which none of us would have ever dreamed that this would be happening. So,
to be honest, this has kept us up at night as well. I kind of view myself, to kind of use a little bit of the term earlier, I would view myself as a quiet ally until this point, right? So I would always say, like, of course, Black Lives Matter, and then if someone said, like, well, what are you doing about it? I'd be like, well,
I'm saying it.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like, I was writing to a friend of mine this morning. I was writing back to her email that she sent out to her email list. And I said, thank you for sending this email and being vulnerable and showing us how to show up and be willing to say that we got it wrong. And I said, I'm a little bit heartbroken that I haven't fought harder this whole time. I'm a little bit heartbroken that I haven't fought as if it were my life on the line, because before I would turn away, and that is a huge sign of white privilege, is because I can turn away. Yes. I would say the words I would use is, it's just too hard. It's just too painful to know that this is happening to people, and there's nothing I can do. there's no, my voice doesn't matter. There's nothing that I can immediately do that could solve the problem. And so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to turn it off, right? I'm going to turn it off and I'm going to say, I'm sure it's getting better, right? Like that in many ways is like, in a bullying situation, being on the playground as a kid, someone getting the shit kicked out of them, and you say, that's really tough to watch. I'm just going to turn around, because if I turn around, I can't see it happening, and I can't feel how painful that is. And so I said to her, like, I don't want to look away anymore. As painful as it is to look straight at the issues that we're facing.
It's not about us right now. Like, it's this selfless act of being something bigger than that. And Beth Ann and I had this conversation, and I shared this with you, Breana, that as we started to research and educate and learn about advocacy, she was like all in, like, give me the wave of it. Let's dig in. And I struggled because I am an empath. So I was feeling it so deeply, and I was feeling it so intensely. And I don't want to minimize that you can't struggle with feeling it and have those emotions. It's just about, where do you go from there? Like, do you take it in small doses? Do you go all in? Like, I think it's different for everyone. So for me, it was first acknowledging this is really painful, but you're right. Like, I can't turn away anymore. So how do I navigate this in a way that best serves the community? And it's not about me, but I'm still making sure I'm okay at the same time.
Right.
And I think you talked about being an empath as well.
Right. And I 100% relate with you, Court, as an empath, as someone who was, like I had shared with you before. I woke up one morning and I was a part of something huge, and I didn't know how exactly it happened, but I told the council group, like, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, that was literally my response to, Breana, what are your thoughts? And I'm like, guys, I got to be honest, I'm overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, I wasn't verbally telling them this. This was in a message, like a group message. And I was literally paralyzed almost, because I'm like, this is so much. I've literally, like, this has been my life, like, experiencing these things in my community, in the world. I've lived in other countries where it has still been a struggle because I'm a Black woman, because the color of my skin, you can't not see it. Being in a position, in a place where my voice has a platform, where it's being heard, where it is, like, being echoed loud, louder than I would have ever imagined. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's like all the feels.
So can we stay there for a minute and kind of talk about your experience?
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it. You're my favorite. So yeah, because I think it's really important when you talk about having your voice heard. Part of that is letting people, and we understand that it's a privilege to let people close to you to hear that experience. And we talked about that a little bit earlier in different situations for both you and us, where there are some people when they're like, yeah, tell me about your experience. And
it's
you're
like a challenge, like, okay, let's see if this is
I'll tell you about
lining
something.
up with what you're saying. That this is all wrong. This is how it is. But, sharing stories and experiences as a Black woman, it is something that I've held really close. Like, people who know me know that I'm not quick to give you information about who I am, where I've come from, that type of thing. Like, it takes quite a bit to get me to open up, which again, I'm stepping more into that, because it's again coming back to the reality that it's bigger than me, like what you said, Court. Like, this is bigger than any of us. And I do involve children in my reasoning, explanation, justification, whatever you want to call it, for speaking up about this stuff, because it isn't just for me. It isn't just for people who are my age or people who are my parents' age, my grandparents, whatever. It's
the
for
generation
the
to
generation to come. Yes.
I'm in your head. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's that direct eye contact.
You know what? Yeah, this is good. What a relief. Just in case I lose my train of thought, you are there.
Just in case, Court, just speak the words you see running through her brain right now.
It was a little wild. But yeah, the generations to come, like Court, we have a history of working with children, both alongside each other and also in unison, so to speak.
Yeah.
In different sectors, in different areas. So it's like, we know what it is to be an influence, to be more than observed. Like, kids are watching. It's an honor to know that what we do here, kids see that and they're inspired by that. And our world changes for the better because of that. Hopefully, as long as you're doing the things that, we'll move that along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sharing my experiences. I'm not sure. Sometimes it's very hard for me to be vulnerable and share on things I've experienced, but because I wouldn't say I know you, but I feel like my heart knows you.
Yeah.
I feel safe, just to put that out there to the listeners. Like, I have told them that I feel safe to be able to share these experiences, and I think it's important that other people are that type of safe as well for other people who look like
Hell
me.
yeah. I'm getting ramped up.
Yes. like-
Hell yeah.
so yeah, story time with Breana now. I'm kidding.
But it's really hard for me not to call you Miss Breana. So we should call it story time with Miss Breana. And
Oh boy.
prefacing with, of course,
This is not really kid friendly though. I mean,
well,
Isn't it though? I mean,
you're right.
This
Yes,
is what
we
they
do
need to
be
hear.
talking with kids about it, but
Yeah.
know your audience and know
Yeah.
how to bring them back to
Yeah.
a safe place.
That's true. We're encouraging you to share what you feel comfortable sharing. We
Yes.
never want anyone to share something where they don't feel safe or feel comfortable, but we are interested as we continue to learn and really move out of that stage of denial to hear and
Yep.
see what this feels like. And I think empathy is such a huge power player in
Yes.
all of this to understand what someone's going through. So we encourage you to tell us some stories.
Yes. So it doesn't affect you till it affects you, realistically. Like, I have many stories that, well, for a long time, they only affected me because I didn't share those stories. But there are stories I have shared with people who the responses have been like, wow, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Strangers who, in the last week, I've told these things and they're like, I had no idea that that was a thing, that happened here. And I'm like, well, now you do. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard to, I honestly didn't like pick one specific thing. I did pick like behaviors and responses. So if that's all right, I'd like to
Yeah.
go on that. But
Yeah, totally.
as an empath, as someone who is constantly thinking and feeling, going to the grocery store is not just something that I take lightly. I'm a preparer.
Beth is the
Beth is
preparer.
yes,
I am
Beth
the
is
wild
I'm like,
one.
I know the court told me that Beth was the preparer and the planner. And I'm like, that's me.
She likes to
like,
call
a
me
T.
neurotic.
Yeah, I've been called that. And I want to say thank you. You're right. You know what?
I will own that.
Yes, I'll
title.
own that. So going to the grocery store, I think about what my appearance says. You know, am I wearing clothes that make me look a little more intimidating? Am I putting my hands in my pockets too much? Am I reaching in my bag a little bit too much if I'm standing in one spot too long? Have I been browsing, looking at things, like, for instance, looking for some conditioner for my hair? Like,
Yeah.
am I taking too long that's going to draw attention where someone's going to think that maybe I'm trying to do something like steal? Or am I carrying myself in a threatening way?
So this is literally going through your
This
head
is
the
literally
entire
going
time
in
you're
my
in the store.
Yes. And, you know, oftentimes I leave the store either one, empty-handed, or with a bunch of things that I didn't want to get because I'm like, I got to make it look like I came in here to shop. And it's not something that I identify as it being because I am Black. Like, in the moment, I'm not thinking I have to do this because it's because I'm Black. Like, I don't think of it that way, but it has been ingrained in me. The experiences that I've had, the confrontation I have received from employees, from, well, people just there to get bread too at the store. Like, it has reminded me that I have to make sure that people see me as safe. And it's a sobering reminder that I also have privilege in this world, and that privilege is to be a woman.
Yeah.
Because if I were a Black man in my community, I would be, to say the least, 10 times less safe.
That's heartbreaking to me.
At least 10 times. And yeah, it's heartbreaking, and it's also sobering.
Yeah.
And somewhat of a relief. And in some ways, it's shameful for me to admit that. Like, oh, thank goodness I'm not a Black man.
Yeah.
And that has been something that, Beth, I can relate to, is like, okay, like, I got to turn that off. Like, I can't do anything to fix that. Like, I got to stay safe myself. I am safe in these ways, and I got to be grateful for that. But in reality, like, we can't turn it off anymore.
No.
And I think that's important because I'm tired of having that internal dialogue.
It sounds
personally.
exhausting.
It's exhausting, yeah.
And then think of like the hormones probably surging through your body
yeah,
of fight or
yeah.
flight kicking in.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just need some conditioner. And now I'm all riled up on cortisol and adrenaline because I'm being precautious almost of what potentially could happen just because of the color of my skin.
Right. And honestly, I just want to have the same experience at the store as, like, if I were white, to be able to go into a store, browse, find what I need, leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely been many situations where I have been able to go into a store, or really anywhere, where I haven't been questioned, I haven't been followed, I haven't been uncomfortable. There are those times. At the same time, is that enough to discount the times where I have felt
Right.
in those ways that I shared? I actually, to go off of script a little bit,
We
but-
love going off script.
oh, good. Going back to the reality that this is a community that does not have a lot of Black people. With that being said, yes, along with that truth, I believe that one Black person in any community is more than enough reason to make sure that we're being inclusive and not just what we have to offer in the store. If there's a Black person in your community who can't find a conditioner, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing to make it so that everybody is welcome here, to make it so that everybody feels like they can live here and take care of themselves.
And that's what we do with kids, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's a child that has a specific need or a certain toy or something, we make it so it's inclusive for all of the children so they don't feel singled out,
Right.
and their needs are met. And then it's an educational experience for the other kids too. And so I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I don't think we see that here.
Right.
I was just thinking of a movie that is animated that reminds me of
Ooh.
Horton Hears a Who.
Oh.
Every who is a who, no matter how small. Is that what they
Person's
say?
a person, no matter how small.
yeah.
Like, oh, sorry.
That's what it reminded me of when you're saying like
Yes.
even one person matters.
Mm-hmm.
They do. That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the point, is that, you know, you don't have to be 100 people deep or 1,000 people deep or a nation deep to matter.
Right.
Like you matter. Each one of us matters, and that's the entire point of this, is that we're not taking it seriously enough when it comes to people of color, that you do matter. You should be able to go to the grocery store and not feel followed, not feel like you have to button up your appearance or that you have to I've never once thought about, do I look too intimidating?
Yeah. Court, you were just saying like you worry about being too provocative. Like, don't we have, what's that one movement called? The me. Yeah, me too.
Me three?
Yeah, me sometimes.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, like that is because that is a truth.
Yeah.
For people who have experienced that. Like we have addressed that
Yeah.
as a society. We recognized it and we've started that work.
Yeah.
Like there's incredible things that I don't even know about that are happening to address that.
Yeah.
And I want to say that that's happening also for people of color in this community.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. What are some of the things that are happening?
There is a Facebook page, and their name is the Northern Michigan Anti-Racism Task Force. Beth, Court, and I, we were joking around earlier about shortening that with an acronym.
We've
which,
renamed it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure that
Much to
sure
say.
that the group, the council that I'm a part of for that page,
They'll
I'm sure
approve.
they'll be fine with that.
It sounds super hip what we
It
came up
does.
with.
Yeah, we won't put it out there yet, but just be aware that it might catch on. I'm kidding. But seriously, we should consider it. So this Facebook page, basically, it's developing, it's growing. There's going to be a lot of resources attached to it. It's going to be a hub of basically how can we be more, what was the question you asked earlier? Like you phrased it really well.
Educate and advocate more.
Yes, educate and advocate. Yeah, this is going to be the spot.
And there's like 800 people in the group already.
It's growing. So, I mean, I would love to see it grow more. I know that some technology devices don't allow you to like and follow.
She's referring to my super small phone that apparently all the cool kids have a bigger phone.
Yeah,
I
it's
really can't find
bizarre.
how to like
Yeah,
it. I follow it now.
Yeah, it's a different layout on your phone, isn't it? The whole Facebook world.
Everything's just smaller,
Yeah, it just looks.
more compact.
Yep, it's a learning curve for me. But yeah, if you're having a hard time figuring out how to find the page, how to like it, follow it, please don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah.
The podcast hosts.
Yeah, we'll link
Beth
it
and
in our
Court.
show notes
Yes,
too. We're
yes.
going to give the resources so they can just click and find it easily.
Awesome. So there's that Facebook page. Again, that's going to be the hub, and within that, there's going to be a lot of resources, trainings, material. There's book recommendations. There's videos that get posted there.
That's
I really hope we're
awesome.
going to put some more music in there.
Yeah.
Shameless plug there to the council, because I love music.
Shameless plug to the if it
Yeah.
pleases the council.
If you'll allow it. No, but it's awesome because there's so much there, and it's for everyone. You know, those who are not sure of how to get involved, those who are not sure exactly where they're at as far as saying, yes, I am committing to this anti-racism work. So yeah, that's awesome. There are anti-oppression trainings coming up, as well as anti-oppression trainings out there already. Really, if you do a Google search, so much stuff will pop up. If you're not an internet user, well, I'm sorry.
Well,
but,
welcome to the world.
yeah,
You're gonna need to be
it's
there.
a great time, but seriously, to be all inclusive, so to speak,
Yeah.
books. There's so many books out there. You guys want to? You're gonna pin some of those, right? You're gonna share some of
in the
those.
show notes, because we were
Yeah,
talking
that's
about a lot of our listeners actually are outside of Traverse City and outside of Michigan. And I remember the two that you told me about were Be the Bridge by Latasha Morrison is a great resource that you gave.
Yes.
And then you said she also has a podcast, right?
She does, yes. She's got a podcast. I'm still learning all of what there is out there connected to Be the Bridge, but there are also local groups that you can join and even start
awesome.
up a Be the Bridge group, which is awesome. I know firsthand that I have friends and family who are talking about starting a Be the Bridge, joining a Be the Bridge within our community here. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, Latasha Morrison, her book changed my life. I will not ever not say that because, yeah, I wouldn't be stepping into this bravery of speaking up and using my voice, sharing my voice, if it had not been for her incredible work.
And I think that's important because we try to keep this in mind for ourselves a lot, but it really can just be one resource.
Yes.
It really can just be one book, one podcast, one movie that really like just hits you in the soul and makes you say, wait a minute, I do matter and I am going to speak up. And so, when, we were talking about earlier, will my voice ever be heard? Will my voice ever matter? Right? Like we've thought that many times, but we started a podcast anyway. And we talk about
things.
Anyways. Yeah, we did it anyway. We felt the fear and did it anyways, as Susan Jeffries' quote goes. But I think that's really important. And that's why, I applaud you for stepping out, especially in our community. And because I know that's not easy for you. It's not easy for anyone when you first step out and first step into an identity. When you fight for a cause or when you advocate for something, that's ultimately how you start becoming known.
Right.
And so I think it really is important that even in the small ways that we can step out or make a difference or speak out, or, if someone makes a racist comment, you don't laugh, you correct it.
You don't stay silent. You don't do
stay
that.
silent.
Yeah.
So there are things that we can do that I think we've not done. We've been silent about.
I'm with you.
Even though we'll say, if asked, oh no, I'm an ally. Well, do you stay silent when the racist jokes are made? Because that's not something that an ally would do. You know what I mean? Like those kinds of things. And it's tough to be called on the carpet, but it's also good because that's accountability. And speaking of accountability, there's something happening in our community for holding our local government accountable, right?
Yes. So those of you who know, last weekend was the protest in Traverse City, and at that there were a list of demands, as we are referring to, basically things that we want to see changed. And with that, it's going to be revisited. It has been put on the agenda for the City Commission meeting happening at 7 p.m. on Monday, June 15th, which is tomorrow. And there is a time to call in for public comment, which means that if you are really anyone, you can call in. You're able to speak up and say, hey, I want to reiterate those demands. And I'm not going to go into all of what those demands are, but basically the one that really resonates in me that I'm never going to forget is basically we're asking that the budget be looked into to be more realistic for our community. And there's a lot more detail in that. But again, if you want to look at all of those demands on that list, our Facebook page is the place to start.
Can you tell us just a little bit about why it's important to call in?
Putting it on the agenda is one step, but hearing that there is the support, there is the ask, there is the paying attention, the level of awareness in the community. Like, it's important for everyone to know that this is not going away. The protest, it was huge, it was amazing, oh my goodness, it was so powerful, all the things, that's great. But let's put that into action. Like, we're not done yet. Like, we are far from done. So let's just continue to, as a community, show up and express that we're here and we're not going anywhere.
So essentially, when you call in, that's you casting a vote in your local community.
Yeah. So on the Facebook page, I don't have all the details of like what maybe like a prompt or a script, so to speak, someone could use, but basically saying, hey, I wanted to say that I am in support of those demands, or, just kind of pushing it along, keeping it on the radar.
Got it.
The Facebook page will have more details. And also once I get them and am able to articulate them better, I will share them with you both. So there's also going to be another public comment opportunity on Wednesday, June 17th. From what I understand, don't quote me on the time. As of now, it's 8 a.m. and there's a county commission meeting, and you'll be able to contribute to public comment on that as well. So again, same format. You dial in, basically reiterate, listen to these folks. We support them. You can really say it in your own words. Of course, if you're uncomfortable using your own words, which oftentimes I am, there are resources out there, which I will work on getting you guys to share.
Yeah, so to reiterate, we are talking about our local Traverse City community, but we encourage you, wherever you're listening, we encourage you to reach out and find the resources in your own community. We will hook up all of the resources that Breana's talking about right now and all the events and stuff. We'll link to the Facebook group on our show notes so that you can get to that and follow along with what she's talking about, I know it's overwhelming for people who've never done it before, because we were talking about this before. We've never called in for public comment. We're like, how do you do that? And you're like, well, here, it's kind of a convoluted process, but here's how it goes.
That's the accountability piece, because when you were talking about the protests that happened at the open space and there were so many people and everyone was talking about it on social, I'm like, yeah, there's probably some hype people in there when they're riding the hype of the situation.
For sure.
But that's not enough. There has to be that accountability. So it's getting uncomfortable, learning how to make these calls, because that's the part that's going to keep things moving in the right direction.
Yes.
So those are 2 opportunities for public comment coming up this week. And then what else is happening this week?
My favorite thing is happening this week. Something I've never been able to participate in. Well, I shouldn't say never been able to. Something I've never participated in. We are working on a Juneteenth celebration. And that is, well, I'm not going to tell you.
Oh,
Juneteenth.
surprise.
Do your research. I encourage everyone, if you do not know what Juneteenth is.
I don't know what that is.
No?
We'll have to do some research.
Yeah. Don't worry. I had to do some research to make sure it was what I understood it to be.
It kind of just sounds like a made-up day or date, but there's something
behind
behind it.
It is a thing, yeah.
Okay.
Have you guys ever heard of Loving Day?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was just this past day on the 12th. Yes, the 12th was Loving Day.
Okay.
That's another thing. If you don't know what that day is, look it up as well. But
so we need to look up Juneteenth, and then whatever is correlated with that is happening in Traverse City.
Yes, so whatever's happening with Juneteenth, it is happening on the 19th of June, which is a little confusing because of the 10th. Everyone's like, which day is that?
Yeah, that's what I was like, it sounds like a date I'm not understanding.
It is an important date.
I get it. We have more research to do.
Yes. You know, we're never done. We're never done learning.
Thanks for
Forever
pointing
learners.
us in that direction.
Yes, but don't worry. Again, I had to look it up too. Every time I tell people to look something up, I want them to know that I was once in a place to have to look that up too.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
But with that being said, I'm excited because I've known about Juneteenth for quite some time, especially in my adult life, and I've never actually participated in the celebration in recognition of it. I've never been so excited to attend something that even resembles a party.
Ooh.
Because, well, introvert problems.
I was just going to say, I'm like, you and Beth really are the same if you're both introverts.
Yep. But this is something that it's important.
Yeah.
And it's been around, like I said. I don't want to devalue or dismiss the fact that there's been some hard work in this. So it's just highlighting and celebrating all the work that's gone into what we're doing today.
That's awesome. We're going to have to look into it, and we'll share the details of that as well.
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing these resources with us, having this open conversation. We appreciate all of the conversation before this, too. As you know, the events were unfolding and we were trying to learn for ourselves and trying to understand the climate and what was happening and all of that. So we appreciate you being honest with us because that's something that I know is difficult for you and you're stepping into it. And we love that. And it's refreshing to be able to have an open conversation. And like you said, like the way you feel safe with us, we feel safe with you. And so
and that's what it's about.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's really important in any conversation that's happening, that it's happening respectfully and that both sides are hearing each other, even when you don't agree with the other side.
You pretty much said what I was going to say, but I think that's how change starts to happen, is where we can create this culture of safety, where we can have open and honest conversations without fear of judgment. And I think that's how change happens, is knowing where that safety zone is so you can start to grow as a person.
First and foremost, I want to encourage you both, and of course the listeners, to just continue to ask the hard questions, to have the hard conversations, which you're doing, unfortunately. But fortunately, some off-record conversations happened leading up to this that were very humbling, not just for you, I know, but also for me. So I appreciate being able to be in your space. Thank you for continuing to embrace the uncomfortable, standing firm in the truth that in order to be a part of the change, you have to be a part of it all. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, and of course, like I said, the uncomfortable.
Ooh,
preach.
I just got emotional. That's all.
Oh, okay. For those of you who don't know, which all of you don't know, Court and I are sharing a microphone this episode, and
it is great to watch. It's very amusing to watch.
Like,
go back. And
so,
forth.
like I was telling them that we don't realize how much of our podcast is just like active listening and saying into the mic, but when you don't have a mic, you can't hear it, and so it sounds like silence on the other side. We're also outside to obey the social distancing so we can keep each other safe. So there has been lawnmowers, one that may have run over a tree.
Yeah,
by the
whole
sounds
tree.
of
it was quite loud.
There have been birds and dogs and there was a cat, but that one was quiet.
Don't
so
forget about all the pollen. Yep. In my tea. It's
yeah, there's
fine.
even pollen in your
Yeah.
tea. Oh, and the creaking trees.
Yeah.
I echo everything that you said, and embracing the uncomfortable is how we grow as people. And when you stop growing, you start dying. That's how I look at life. And I don't ever want to be in a position where I put my blinders on. I was in that position with this situation, and I don't want to be in that
you're
position.
probably not done being
Yeah.
in that position. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not done either.
Yeah.
We will go back to that.
Yeah.
But it's how we come back from that.
Yeah.
That's important.
The awareness
Mhm.
and moving forward.
Well, we hope that this episode was certainly enlightening for you as it was for us. We really enjoyed all of our conversation and our research. So hopefully this episode taught you, the listener, something that maybe you didn't know, maybe something that you can take with you. And we encourage you, like we said earlier, to go into your community, find what you can do in your local community, because we do make a difference. One voice makes a difference. One person makes a difference. And if we don't stand up, then the changes will never come to fruition. So, Breana, thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
really appreciate having you on. You were a blast. All of our conversations before this as well. We had we started out just thinking we were going to record a podcast, and then we
That
hung
would have
out.
been the longest
Yeah.
podcast. but
Then we just hung
Yeah.
out for 3 hours. So,
It's fine.
and we've actually moved the table into the sun every
yeah,
single time. So,
Musical sun chasing.
yeah. So the sun is we're starting to be in the shade again. So we're going to have to move once again.
One
So,
more time.
all right, that's it for this week. We will see you next week, same time, same place. And until then, keep building your best life.